or something.
What's your favorite trick?
Gotta be this. I'm not good at it that much.
Family, tragedy, and NFL superstardom. AJ Green juggled it all with grace and precision. During the 2010s, he was one of the best receivers in the league. He was a 7-time Pro Bowler and a 2-time All-Pro. And AJ Green ain't just another wide receiver from yesteryear. He's your favorite wide receiver's favorite wide receiver. Current Bengal T. Higgins grew up idolizing AJ. He was a Bengals fan as a kid because of number 18.
I'm a way more elite receiver than what I was coming in. I learned so much from him. Just him teaching me the little things, you know, how to read defenses, mid-route, how to, you know, release against certain DBs. It's just the little things that he taught me. And, you know, I just thank him so much. Now I can just call him my brother.
AJ Green is a part of a very exclusive club. He's a Cincinnati Bengal #1 receiver. Now I know that don't really sound all that exclusive until you take a look at the last 22 years. During that time, there's only been 3 true members of the club: Ocho, Uno, and of course AJ. 20 years of greatness at the wide receiver position. But if you're not a Bengals fan, or at least a fan of one of our 3 division opponents, you might not remember his amazing acrobatics or his crazy hands since he never talked about it. Most receivers at that time were loud, brash, and temperamental, but AJ Green was reserved, laid back, and super chill. If you took his kindness and confused that with weakness, remember I said he had them crazy hands? But there's a whole lot to his story that most people don't know. Some of the tragedies he went through and challenges he faced. And since earlier this week he went ahead and announced retirement, I dropped what I was working on. It's time for What Happened to AJ Green. But other than that, y'all already know what time it is. So let's get it. Cue the Wayne. Alright, real quick before we jump in, today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. So finally, it's time for the big game. Some people go to big game parties for the free food. Other people go to big game parties for the free drinks. But only a special select few individuals pull up to the party for the real deal action. Action that's only found at DraftKings Sportsbook. I've teamed up with DraftKings to give all new customers a winning offer. All new customers have to do is sign up for DraftKings using my code FlemLo. Bet at least $5 on the big game and you'll instantly receive an additional $200 in bonus bets. That's what's up. I repeat, new customers bet $5 on the big game, and in that moment you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly deposited into your account. Now if you're not quite sure how to use the $200 in bonus bets, one thing you can do is try out same game parlays. With that, you can combine multiple bets from one game, which team will have the most passing yards, who will score the first touchdown, and other things like that from one game for even bigger winnings. Now if mobile sports betting is not available in your state, don't trip, you can still have fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Brand new customers use promo code FlemLo, then bet your $5 on the big game and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code FlemLo, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Man, shout out to DraftKings once again for sponsoring the video. Without further ado, time to jump back in. AJ Green grew up in Ridgeville, South Carolina, a small town full of hardworking people. Here he picked up values anybody can get behind. It's pretty straightforward, hardworking family. But sadly, we pick up our story today when AJ first lost a member of that family in a tragic situation back in 1993. His aunt gathered up the kids, a 4-year-old AJ, a couple of his cousins, and his older brother. AJ and his brother both have these unique names. You got Adriel Jeremiah and Aviance Andre, and Aviance was about 5 years older. According to AJ, Abby would get up some mornings and tell their parents they ain't have to get out of the bed. He would be in charge of making food for him and AJ, but I'm not sure if it was cereal or maybe steak and eggs. Either way, he always looked out for his little brother, and here they were with their cousins, about to go and have some fun. So they gathered all in a car and headed to the city carnival. But coming down the 2-lane road was another driver being stupid. I'm not sure if dude was drunk, but he swerves into their lane. AJ's aunt tried to avoid him, so she swerves into a ditch. Despite her efforts, the car still ended up clipping them. But her quick reaction time may have saved AJ's life. But sadly, they lost Abby in the wreck, and that was only a few days before his 10th birthday. AJ's aunt, she was paralyzed in the accident as well. You want to talk about a truly tragic day for a family. On that day, AJ Green would lose his big brother, his guide through life, the only one he'd ever known. Losing your big brother, man, especially at that point, that's gonna break you down in pieces. And AJ coped the best he could, but it did take him a while, and the world would have to wait until he pieced himself together. Once he got back to school, it wouldn't take long before AJ had another pivotal moment. When he got to first grade, he picked up a new hobby. He started juggling, and he looked like an absolute natural. In second grade, he joined a juggling team. Never heard of a juggling team for second graders, but apparently they had one. So they performed their juggling act at halftime of high school games. And years later, he continued his juggling act, but this time as the main attraction. In 5th grade, he quit juggling as he got too cool for it. But the hand-eye coordination, concentration, and the skill had already been programmed deep into his subconscious. So once he swapped out juggling with basketball and football, he already had a great foundation that he was able to lean on. He was a long, lanky kid, and he excelled on the court. And on the field, he made catches in high school that some dudes can't make at the combine. He never attended a camp. He ain't have no private coaches. There was no YouTube. You just had to try to find ways to get better. And while he never had problems improving in sports, he did have some reoccurring issues in the classroom. Sometimes we lose somebody that we really need, but along the journey, others pop in and fill the void. For AJ, that person was his coach, Louis Mulkey, who pushed him to be a better student and a better man. So one Christmas, when AJ and Abby were young, their dad got them matching fire trucks as gifts. And it's funny how the universe works sometimes, as AJ's new guy drove the real thing. Coach Louis Mulkey was a real-life hero, a firefighter captain who coached on the side. AJ looked up to him and he learned a lot from him. But just as he got close, tragedy strikes again. In 2007, there was a big fire in a furniture warehouse. The entire roof collapsed, killing 9 firefighters. Sadly, Coach Mulkey was one of 9 who lost their lives, as AJ loses another older brother type of figure. The Charleston Sofa Superstore fire was a tragedy, a disaster. It actually goes a lot deeper, but that's beyond the scope of this video. AJ and the Sumnerville basketball team played the 2007 season in memory of their coach. Now that he was older, AJ responded to tragedy differently. This time he didn't lose focus. He just locked in even more. He helped lead the basketball team to a state title that same season. One last dedication to Coach/Captain Mulkey. On the football field was crazy. Dude moved like such a natural. As a former receiver myself, looking at his high school tape is mesmerizing. Now the numbers was crazy too. Let's go through his 4 years of high school. As a freshman, 1,217 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. As a sophomore, 1,203 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. As a junior, 1,422 receiving yards and 16 touchdowns. And as a senior, 1,531 receiving yards and 15 touchdowns. His 5,373 receiving yards, which he had amassed by the end of high school, ranked second all time, not at his school, not in his state. This man was second all time in the nation. He made all-state receiver every year of high school. And by the 10th grade, dude already had offers from Michigan, Florida State, Notre Dame, LSU, Clemson, and of course the one that he'd eventually choose, Georgia. Rivals ranked him number 2, right behind Julio Jones. And these two remained linked really still until this day. AJ was more agile, but Julio was faster. And not only was he faster, he was 30 pounds heavier. But despite his lankiness, AJ never lacked strength. Dude was wiry strong, and you could tell he had that dog. Both players seemed to become instant stars on the college level, but AJ had to shift his mindset to reach his real potential. Remember I said, AJ Green grew up in Ridgeville, South Carolina, a small town full of hardworking people. But his next part is the only reason I put that detail in. Here's a snippet of a story written by AJ Green himself, published in the Players Tribune back in August of 2020. I just remember pulling on my shoulder pads, lacing up my cleats, finally getting out there on the field as a hotshot 5-star recruit and dropping tons of passes. I didn't know if it was nerves or if I was overly excited, but at one point I was doing the drill and I dropped 2 or 3 in a row. Perfect throws too. I just flat dropped them. So I go back to my dorm and immediately dial up mom. I'm like, Mom, this is hard. For real, this is rough. I was bad, Mom. This is really, really hard. And after that, it's just silence for 2 or 3 seconds. Then, no, she says, all matter of fact. She says it in a way where I swear I could almost see her shaking her head through the damn phone. No, AJ, it's not. It's not hard. It's what you love. You just had a tough day. Son, that's life. So instead of getting down about it, push through. Tomorrow's a new day. You will be fine. Before she even finished, I knew that she was right. Completely right. Everyone has bad days, AJ. Not every day is gonna be perfect, but don't try to tell me it's too hard or that you can't do it. It's work. Treat it like that. It's not meant to be easy. Before hanging up, my mom told me to go work my butt off every day. And if I did that, she promised I'd have more good days than bad. So advice is one thing, but wisdom is another. This was wisdom from a person AJ watched do it firsthand. For 30 years, AJ's mom worked at a Walmart in South Carolina. She got up every morning at 6 and didn't get home till 6 at night. When she got home, AJ's dad was getting ready to go to his job. So AJ learned what hard work looked like every day from his parents. Now his dad, Woodrow Green, was a more extreme example. He started working at a steel plant when he was only 16. Woodrow's dad, AJ's granddad, was the manager at the plant, and over the years, Woodrow moved up so much he became his dad's boss. His parents never missed a day. They even worked when they was sick. So from that point on, AJ decided to approach his craft the same way. The mindset shift happened fast, and when his freshman year was over, he had edged out Julio Jones for all SEC first team. As a sophomore, he was first team again, but didn't make it as a junior, all because he missed his first 4 games of the season serving a bogus suspension. In 2010, an NIL deal didn't exist, so for cash, AJ sold his bowl game jersey for $1,000. Like a bloodhound, the NCAA sniffed out the money. Then they swooped in and hit AJ with a suspension. Then they made him pay all the money back to a charity. Man, they probably gave him a list of some of their partners to choose from. If not for that whole situation, who knows? AJ might have stayed a 4th year. But since you want to act up, cool. It was time to go get some real money. He declared for the draft following his junior season, and his old rival Julio declared as well. They were the top 2 receivers in the draft hands down, but which of the 2 was actually better? The debate had raged on since their days in high school, and now an NFL team would have to pick one over the other. And really, you couldn't go wrong. They was both different, but they was both cold as hell. So in college, they played in the same conference, right? They went head to head when they were freshmen, but they could have ended up in the same division once they got to the NFL. AJ was selected 4th overall by the Bengals, while Julio was taken 6th overall by the Falcons. But you know who originally had the 6th pick? The Browns, but they traded the pick to Atlanta. So now the 1 and 2 receivers coming out of high school were the 1 and 2 receivers going into the league. And I'm not really sure how many times this ever happened, but I've done a lot of these videos and I don't think I've ever seen that. AJ opened his career in truly historic fashion, going for over 1,000 yards in each of his first 5 seasons. And he should have became the first player since Moss to get 6 straight, but he ended up getting unlucky during his 6th season. That year, he had 964 yards through only 10 weeks of the 2016 season. But then he suffered a severe hamstring tear. He didn't play another game for the rest of the year. So he ended up falling less than 40 yards short. Bro, 40 more yards was all he needed for 1,000. And in a way, this 40 yards might hurt his Hall of Fame argument, but I'll elaborate more once we get to that point. So in 2017, he hit 1,000 yards again. He should have had his first 7 seasons going over 1,000 yards. But you know what he did do? Went to 7 straight Pro Bowls. You know what else he did? Went to 5 straight playoffs. He walked into the league and was dominant immediately. And he did it while winning on the Bengals. But even though he went to the playoffs in his first 5 years, we didn't win none of the games, which kinda hurt his legacy. Cause if we could've got some of those postseason wins, it would've shined a brighter light on how great AJ was. He supported Andy Dalton, who the Bengals took in the same draft, 2nd round from TCU, and they made a good pairing. When you think of Georgia and TCU, you think of this game. When I think of Georgia and TCU, I think of this draft. As a fan, I'll be honest, there was times I sat back and I wondered, what could AJ do with an elite quarterback? Still, I'll admit, he and Andy made a good duo. And for years, they played their ass off and brought stability to the team. For that, I'm grateful. They had a good run. And AJ Green was something different. Watching these highlights, bro, I had forgot how different he was. As a Bengals fan, there's a comfort in having a player like this. The most low-maintenance star receiver I've ever seen. And before Jamar Chase took the Raven Killer mantra, AJ Green wore it for years. He had some crazy games against them. But all them games against the Ravens and the Steelers, chippy teams, I only saw AJ lose his temper one time. After 5 years of making the playoffs every single season, 2016 was the first time AJ was on a losing team. Then in 2017, that trend would continue as the Bengals were 3-5 heading in to play the Jags. There AJ would face a young Ramsey in his prime. And right away they didn't vibe because they couldn't be more different. AJ's a quiet, put your head down and go to work type of player, while Jalen Ramsey wears his mouthpiece only for decoration. So Ramsey was being Ramsey, just talking and talking. AJ was being AJ, taking it all in. But bro, by the 2nd quarter, AJ Green had had enough. Jalen kept calling him soft, and AJ wasn't feeling that. Usually dudes who talk a lot think dudes who don't talk much are soft, which is funny because in most cases, it's the exact opposite. As a quiet guy myself, I understand this very well. I debate with you all day, but I refuse to argue. Once the disrespect kind of gets to a certain level, the talking is now done, we'll have to handle it a different way. I think AJ felt the trash talk was kind of taken beyond the field. The disrespect was to the point he felt dude challenged him as a man. I got love for Jalen Ramsey, he's a great, no doubt about it, but he played with the wrong one, and this time AJ got on his ass. I've heard some say he grabbed him from behind, blah blah blah, but I want you to look closely. Here's my breakdown of the situation. So the play gets stuffed at the line. Whistle blows, AJ stops. He turns to go back to the huddle and Ramsey takes a cheap shot. When he pushed him to the ground, he had officially crossed the line. And AJ's mind was set the second he touched the grass. After the cheap shot, only then does he try to walk away, but it's too late. So don't take a cheap shot and then drop your guard and try to play innocent after the fact. Ramsey was mad he was ejected because he quote didn't go back at him, but I think it was the right call because he started the whole thing. Not to mention, this was AJ Green's first altercation on a football field, so reputation plays a part. Like that time Andre Johnson got a hold of Cortland Finnegan. No one batted an eye. We all understood. The moral of the story is this: if you decide to challenge a guy's manhood, you better make sure you up for the challenge. Now, one of the major measuring sticks used to size up receivers from this particular era. Tell me about your trip to Revis Island. Was it a vacation or was it more like a prison sentence? In 2016, AJ Green booked his flight, and once he landed, they damn near had to evacuate the island. Dude had 12 receptions for 180 yards, and he did the majority of it while Revis was trying to guard him. On Revis, he had 10 catches for 152, plus a long touchdown on one of the greatest corners we've seen. So remember that 40 yards that AJ didn't get in 2016? Here's why I think it could hurt his Hall of Fame chances. During the first half of his 12-year career, AJ was on a surefire Hall of Fame trajectory, but after his first major injury, his production clearly dropped, and he never consistently reached his previous level again. So, banking 7 straight years of 1,000 yards is an easy argument to illustrate dominance over a period of time. And the reason it holds more importance in this one particular case is because AJ didn't have the strongest twilight years. I think a good comparison is someone like Jimmy Smith. So Jimmy got going late, but once he did, check this out. Their stats were very similar at one point in their careers, but I think it helps that Jimmy ends up closing much stronger. They also both played for teams that haven't always had prestige, but during both of their runs, they was part of winning squads. So what kind of happened with Jimmy was his injuries were early on, whereas AJ's injuries hit in the middle of his career. So when the Jaguars reloaded their roster midway through Jimmy's run, he was healthy and was able to make it into the new era. But AJ battled injuries during the transition, so he wasn't kept around for the new Bengals regime. So instead he switched situations and he bet on Kyler Murray. And for that first year in Arizona, he did exactly what was needed. But another season or two putting up these kind of numbers would have went a long way in closing his career strong. And it sucks because physically he had enough to play a role, but he needed to be in a consistent offense to get the most out of what he had left. Can you imagine if he was still with the Bengals over these last couple years? Third or fourth receiver in this new Joe Burrow offense. He would have continued to stay in the spotlight, breaking more franchise career records. He would have got to go on these playoff runs, and he would have made it to a Super Bowl. And yeah, all of that would have helped his case, but really it just would have been dope to see. On the back end of his career, things would come full circle, and it's crazy how it happened. Listen up, man, check this out. As rookies, AJ Green and Dalton started a new era for the Bengals. In AJ's last year on the team, he witnessed a new dawn. People forget, but his final year with the Bengals was 2020, the same year another quarterback receiver duo was drafted. Just like AJ and Andy, Joe Burrow and T. Higgins were drafted first and second round in the same draft together. Now, as a culture-changing force, Burrow was something we never had, but T. Higgins was like the second coming of something we did have. The 6'4" slim receiver known for smooth routes and contested catches, grew up as a Bengals fan thanks to idolizing AJ. Because they had similar body types and skill sets, T was able to build his game like his idol AJ Green. And the comparisons had started before T was even a Bengal. When he was going into the draft, his NFL comp was AJ Green. With the first pick in the second round, the Bengals brought T to Cincy, where he got to play one season with his childhood idol. AJ helped to mold T, teaching him tricks of the trade and how to use his physical gifts the way AJ once had. He also left his mark on Burrow, giving him a vet to throw the ball to. He even caught what should have been Joey's first game winner in the league. A flag negated the play, as we was robbed of this moment. But I don't care about the penalty because I still saw it happen. The pass perfectly bridged the gap between the old and new eras, and I actually might never get over the fact that it didn't count. He mentored Tyler Boyd, had effects on Joe Mixon. His influence still permeates the locker room today. For 11 straight years, he clocked in with no exceptions. Even in his last game, he was giving it all he had. And it was pretty dope to see him turn back the clock one last time. As he walks away from the game, I know Bengals fans will remember him. And I hope fans of other teams won't forget the work he put in. If you want to reminisce more about this era in the NFL, check out my Cam Chancellor video. Just click here on the screen.